Hi guys, Sister Becky again. I really feel like I'm at youth camp as I'm recording these videos in our camper. Kind of makes me feel like I'm right there at camp while I'm doing these lessons. But today I want to talk to you for just a minute about the title that you saw, The Hidden or Unseen Potential. You know, sometimes we get busy in life and we just look at what we can see right now and we think that's all there is to see. We get caught up in the things that are in front of us and we don't always realize that there are things that are not there now but they will be in the future. I'm going to share a personal story with you, and hopefully it will help you to understand some of the scriptures that we're about to look into. When Brother Lance and I first moved into our house where we live now, it was over 10 years ago. We were just moving to Lake City. We were about to start pastoring Welcome Church, and we wanted to find a home in our community. And we found a house, and we were in the process of moving in. And a very nice older lady walked over, and she said, "I just want to welcome you to the neighborhood." And she brought us a little gift. And that gift was a little pot, a flower pot, and there were two little green leaves sticking out of that flower pot. I will never forget that pot because I thought she was a very sweet woman, but I was kind of wondering why she gave me this flower pot with just two leaves sticking out of it. Now, you can probably already tell I don't know anything about flowers and plants, and I do not have a green thumb. So we thanked her and we set that little flower pot to the side. We set it out in the backyard, and we continued moving in, and we kept saying, we need to plant that little plant and we need to do something with it. I didn't even know what kind of plant it was. But you know, months went by and that plant was still sitting outside in our backyard. Then years went by and that little plant was still sitting out in our backyard. Micah was born, Addison was born, Kason was born. We've now been pastoring at Welcome for 10 years. And that little pot, that little flower, was still sitting in our backyard. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say, for 10 years we had this plant. And we had good intentions, but we never did anything with it. The plant didn't die. It didn't live or do anything. It didn't seem to change, but it was still hanging in there. It survived our neglect, and like I said, we're not really people with green thumbs, but that little plant always had those two little green leaves sticking out, and it was right there in our backyard for us to look at. It looks something like this. So as you can see, it didn't look extremely beautiful, and I didn't think too much about that plant. I didn't have much confidence that that little plant was ever going to be anything special. I didn't particularly think it was a very pretty plant, to be honest with you. I was thankful for the gift, but for 10 years, that plant sat in our backyard. 10 years, never saw a change in that plant. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see potential in that plant. It didn't have a whole lot of potential in my eyes. But one day, just a few months ago, as a matter of fact, my kids were playing in the backyard, and one of them kicked a soccer ball and knocked the plant over, and the pot broke. The little plastic pot that had been out in our backyard for 10 years, and that Florida sun had dry rotted, and when they hit it with the ball, it cracked. And even though that plant wasn't particularly beautiful, we've had it for 10 years, so I thought, you know, let's just go ahead and stick it in the ground. I kind of felt bad that the pot had busted and the plant was laying there. So we went ahead and literally it took me just a minute or less. I dug a little hole in the backyard by our doorstep. I went ahead and took that plant and I planted it there by our back doorstep. It took me just a few seconds to do. We patted the dirt around the plant, added a little water, and we went our way. Didn't think nothing else of it. And it was a couple days later, we walked out in our backyard, and to our absolute shock, there was a beautiful flower coming up out of that plant. I now know that it's called an amaryllis, and it looks like this now. I'm going to go ahead and show you a picture of this beautiful flower that bloomed out of that pot. So, can you imagine my shock? This plant I had for 10 years, never once bloomed, never once changed. All of a sudden, when I put it in the dirt in our backyard and give it some space, add a little water, this beautiful flower emerges. It was almost like a miracle, to be honest. We were all shocked. And I took pictures of that flower, and it really spoke to my heart, because it made me realize that for 10 years I had this plant, this amaryllis plant, that I stuck to the side. I didn't believe in it. I didn't have confidence in that plant to be anything beautiful. I didn't see its potential. I just left it. And it did nothing for the 10 years that I did that. But when I took just a few seconds to plant that plant in the dirt, give it a little bit of attention, in just a few days I had the most beautiful flower in my backyard. And guys, some of you, I want you to really take this to your heart. There are some of you out there, you may feel that you've been neglected. You may feel that nobody really understands you. You may feel that people don't believe in you, that they don't think that you can do things, they don't have confidence that you will ever be successful or be strong in your faith. Listen, God sees you and He sees your potential. See, right now, you may be kind of like my amaryllis plant. You may feel like you're just a little blade of grass sticking up out of the dirt. You may think that you don't have much going on. You don't look like much. You don't feel like much. You may not feel like you have some kind of important position in the church or in your life. But do not lose hope. Just like that plant for 10 years sat there and just looked like it was going to do nothing. With just a little time and attention, suddenly once we planted that in the dirt, it became a beautiful flower. And many of you guys, you may not feel like you're at that place yet where you've reached your potential. And you know what? Other people, they may not see what's inside of you, but God sees it. And I promise you that your future is something beautiful. It's something amazing. Just hang in there. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. God has not lost hope in you. He sees what you will become. I think of David in this. David was just a shepherd boy. He was out tending to his father's sheep. Matter of fact, his brothers didn't give him much credit at all. When the prophet came to anoint a king, they didn't even bring David. They brought all of his other brothers. They never thought David would be the one that would be anointed as a king. They didn't even see his potential. But see, God, He saw David. He saw David sitting out in that desert singing worship songs and writing songs to God. He saw David protecting his sheep faithfully. He saw David that had a heart that loved God. God saw what no one else saw. And David's the one God anointed to be king. David flourished into a mighty man of God, a great king of Israel, a warrior, a man that could defeat a giant that no one else had the guts to even defeat or fight. They didn't even try, but David did. So you may feel right now like you're being overlooked. You may feel like people just look right past you. They don't see you. They don't see what you can be in God. Keep the faith. God sees and He knows and He has great plans for you. So keep this story in your mind of the amaryllis. You might feel like right now you're in a stall. You may feel like nothing's happening in your life. But God has great plans for you. Just let God plant you. That plant, if I'd have left it in that pot for another 10 years, I probably still wouldn't have a flower. But when I did take the time to take that plant out of a pot and put it in the dirt and give it new space and give it room and give it a little attention and a little watering, amazing things happened and a flower grew out of that plant. Allow God to move in your life. Allow God to take you and plant you in His Word and do great things in your life. Never feel like you're not important. You are important to God, to me, to other people in your life that love you. The devil wants you to feel like you can never do things. You'll never be any good. You'll never do great things for God. You'll never accomplish things in your life, that you're just doomed to repeat the history that you've seen from your family or from people you've been around. The devil's a liar. God has great plans for you. God has a beautiful future in store for you. Just let God be that gardener and take you and plant you in His will and His word, and let's see what will bloom in your life. I can't wait to see some of you next year and let you share with me the testimonies of what God's done for you. Love you guys.